Thanks for joining us once again. We focus today on the Robotaxi arriving and review some of the implications of this. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. In particular, I wanted to ask the question today, front seat monitor for the Robotaxi, given restrictions on areas it's driving in, etc., to make sure this is a successful effort. So the question is, why is Elon so nervous about the function of the Robotaxi that he needs to have a front seat passenger to assist the vehicle? So as usual, we have our first 5 minutes of analysis and then sort of implications. As you know, the Robotaxi has arrived. It's the 22nd of June, 2025, and that is great news. There's a large amount of revenue and profit associated with the Robotaxi working, and as I said on previous videos, I think the Robotaxi is eventually going to work, but I believe we're in the 1.0 version now, and I believe we'll get seamless work by the time we get to versions 2.0, maybe 3.0, but I'm not expecting perfection in 1.0. And the problem is that if you don't get perfection in 1.0, an accident could be kind of a drag and really screw things up in terms of regulators, etc. So I was very surprised to see this passenger seat monitor in the vehicle, and it made me ask the question, ¿Qué pasa? In Spanish is what we say, and like, what is that? And I actually got an answer. I called a friend who's an ex-Tesla employee to find out, well, why are they doing that? And he pointed out to me that one example of the challenge they've been having is something I call the space shuttle challenge. So you'll remember, if you're a longtime viewer, that we did a show approximately 3 years ago regarding the space shuttle challenge. And what that is that when the space shuttle went up, they always ran 3 computers. All of the operating systems they were running were, or the CPUs were all IBM CPUs. 2 of the software written were, sorry about that, the Long Island Railroad. And the thing too. Ooh, nice 787. So the problem that popped up was that in order to make sure there wouldn't be a computer glitch, Sperry wrote the software for one of the 3 IBM computers that ran. And the other 2 were IBM machines and IBM software. And what would happen is at the speed of light, one computer would make a decision, the other 2 would check and say, oh, we're going to do this. The other 2 machines would confirm the move, and then that move would be done. So what's going on right now is that I was told that one of the problems that's happening is there'll be hundreds of iterations of the vehicle moving properly around the factory as it moves to production and then out to be shipped. And then once or twice out of, let's say, 100, you'll have the machine wig out. So it could be hardware, it could be software, it's unknown, but it's not 100% all the time working. And I think this introduces a really interesting question, because as we shared in our earlier show, right now a CPU costs $14. So if Tesla wanted to run redundancy like 3 ways in the way the shuttles used to do, they could easily do that for like $50. So I'm intrigued because I'm hoping that they're having the same problems with Waymo. I'm hoping that perhaps the government agencies consider asking them to throw in a couple extra CPUs. That way we could have redundancy that addresses any potential issues these machines may have. So as a result, I just want to say that I'm happy to hear that the Robotaxi is ready to go. I'm happy they're in version 1.0. I'm happy that it's moving. My hope right now is that it doesn't have any catastrophic issues that result in it being canceled, because obviously that would affect the company greatly for them to not get approval to actually, try this out in different places. So I think it's awesome that they're ready to go, and I think they'll at least be able to meet the performance parameters of Waymo, but hopefully at a lot lower cost. So what am I looking forward to? My thing is, I really felt like today or the next 4 or 5 days is not that big a deal. Where I think the big deal happens is when we have the public in the vehicle and we see whether or not Elon's idea of primarily cameras only is going to work. And does he have the ability to add back the radar sonar? Will the government successfully force him to go to LiDAR if there are issues? There's a bunch of questions lurking that we'll have answers to over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, I guess we have to enjoy the fact that they're actually starting, and hopefully this gives some push to the stock price. The final thing I'd like to cover today is that, as you already know, Tesla sales domestically are down. They're actually down everywhere a little bit, but the domestic sales are down. I think the range is in that 20% category, because we actually have a lot of vehicles that are sitting around here in Long Island, New York, that are unsold. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a drag on the stock price when it comes to earnings. But if the Robotaxi experiment is going well at the end of the quarter, I think it'll make up for declining sales, because the biggest driver is what's the new revenue, what's the new earnings going to look like. And if it looks like everything is a go, I think you will see down revenue, down sales, but up stock as a result. So we're very much looking forward to this. So this ends our discussion of both what are we seeing in terms of numbers, as well as what are we talking about in terms of the Robotaxi currently. Next, I'd like to review a brief health tip. And the health tip I'd like to have you review today is to have you consider switching up the order of your meal. What I learned from one of our sort of doctors online, referral, was to consider eating your fiber, be it vegetables or other type first, then the meat, then the carbohydrate and sugar. What happens is your system sets up on the fiber from the vegetables, and then the meat, and then obviously subsequent to that. But having that be the first thing that hits your small intestines completely changes the impact on your body. So I wanted to encourage you to try this. I think you'll feel very differently if you eat in this manner. And let us know what you think of the change. Don't forget your 25 leg lifts a day. Also wanted to encourage you to consider 2 weeks going to bed and waking up at the same time to maintain your circadian rhythm. Once again, we want to thank you for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Just au revoir, le hit road hoda hefes trajichi ni homa arrivederci. Namaste. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.